Hi, I'm here with Bob Nersesian, who is the author of The Law for Gamblers, A Legal Guide to the Casino Environment. This is Bob's book, just came out recently. And Bob, I understand now you represent players who have patrons of casinos who have disputes with the casinos.
Exactly. Mostly when the casinos assault, batter, or falsely imprison them, but I've also taken cases all the way to the Nevada Supreme Court for gamblers where casinos were either not paying when they were supposed to, or from some of our past, we felt they were even outright cheating.
Okay. Now, how long have you been doing this?
Since about 1995.
And when you first started, was this a career that where a lot of lawyers represented players?
Nobody does this.
Nobody? You're
Not
one of the
really.
few?
It's me. There's some people I'll refer to when I'm too busy, but for the most part, this is an ignored area of the law, both from the suing casinos perspective and from the intentional tort perspective.
Okay, well, I've read your book. I enjoyed it, and there was a lot of useful information in there, and there's a lot of intriguing information in there, but it's probably covering a lot of stuff that people don't really know about. But let's start off, because a lot of your work was representing advantage players, and for the people out there that don't know what an advantage player is, can you explain it?
Oh, an advantage player is somebody who has studied the games. For lack of a better way to put it, say, discovered a leak in the game where the casino has either put together rules or the game itself has rules that allows a player to play with a mathematical advantage. And sometimes the casinos are not aware of that mathematical advantage. Oftentimes they are, and they count on the ignorance of the playing public to miss that mathematical advantage. And they use that mathematical advantage as best they can to make money, to earn their profits at a game which is a competition.
And there's no cheating involved.
I don't represent cheaters, and the advantage gambling I'm talking about is legal advantage gambling, or advantage gambling is generally legal. To expand on this a little bit and give you an example of what I'm talking about, advantage gamblers will, they might crush a game. They might take $300,000-$400,000 from a casino in an evening. But what is missing is that the casinos forget that they are offering a gambling game. It is a competition. I'm sitting here at a blackjack table as I'm talking to you. Blackjack has historically been a competition between the house or the dealer and the player. And you can bring all your wiles to that competition. It's like a poker game. And with it, there would be tells. Sometimes you can play tells. Sometimes there are slips of the cards, and you can see what the dealer's card is, and you can capitalize on it. Technically, if they saw your card, and I'm sure they sometimes do, if they felt there was a way they could capitalize on it, but unfortunately for them, under the blackjack rules played in casinos, they are not allowed to vary bets with knowledge. But you as a player are.
Right.
So the thing that happens is the player uses that knowledge, and the casino goes, you're not supposed to be able to do that. Or by our rules, you're not supposed to be smart. Well, let's go to the poker table for a minute. Since time immemorial, I'll cite Hoyle, for example, it has been the duty of the dealer to protect their cards, or anybody holding their cards to protect their cards. All of a sudden, a casino in a game which is a competition puts out somebody who fails to protect their cards, and then they blame the guy sitting on the other side for taking advantage of it. You have always, under the common law, been entitled to take advantage of that knowledge, and only now, with the juggernaut of casinos providing a tax base and being in the pocket of the local governments, are we seeing that the paradigms are changing and the casinos are all of a sudden all powerful. I'm looking at the Phil Ivey case as I say this, which is analogous. in Borgata in New Jersey, and there the casino enlisted the local or the powers that be on behalf of the local casino. In my opinion, turned 1,000 years of common law upside down to protect a casino against a player who was just being smart.
Okay, now that was one of the things I had in my list of questions here to ask you. But I see you're getting all worked up here.
I'm not worked up. Well, maybe it's my nature.
You start talking about this, and you're ready to fight on behalf of
I'm
the
not
player.
fighting. These are friends.
Oh, okay.
Aren't they?
They are, but what we're talking about now, we're going to have people have an idea of what their legal rights are in a casino. But to go back, so you've explained an advantage player. Someone gets an advantage of the game without cheating. But let's take some specific examples. And the most famous, the people are most familiar with, would be card counting. A lot of people think card counting is cheating. But we know it's not, so can you explain?
Well, I'm sorry to disagree with you. I don't think a lot of people think it's cheating. Some police officers think it's cheating, and casinos think it's cheating. The rest of the world wholly understands that it's exactly what's his name, Kalinakis, the guy in The Hangover who said, well, it's not illegal, but it is frowned upon. And it's not frowned upon by everybody. It's frowned upon by these guys who put out an imperfect game, and it's only frowned upon because the guy on the other side of the table is smarter. As to it being cheating, how could it be cheating? It's a game. You're using your knowledge and what has been provided to you in card counting voluntarily to work out what your betting strategy should be. Excuse me, that's a game. That's the definition of it. So no, it's not even close to illegal. And anybody who is pretending it's illegal is doing so for their own goals to punish or staunch people who are smarter than the game personnel or the game design personnel or the game mix personnel at a casino.
Okay, but now if a casino knows you're card counting or thinks you're card counting, they do have the legal right, in most states, not all, to ask you to stop playing. Is that correct?
In most states, yes.
All right,
in states they don't, New Jersey and Missouri.
Okay, so they can't ask you to stop playing blackjack, but they could do other things to thwart your play. What, they would shuffle up all the time? Or?
Well, in Missouri, that's still a little bit ambiguous, I think. But in New Jersey, certainly they can take what are called countermeasures and do so aggressively.
Okay. All right, so that's probably the thing that people are most familiar with, card counting. But now, you had mentioned earlier where you're talking about when you get to see sometimes, due to a dealer error, you could see one of their cards. But also, there are people who specialize in this called hold carding, which is trying to see the dealer's cards.
I don't know that you necessarily have to say they're trying to see.
If they happen to see.
Because here's what's going on. Okay. If anybody is playing a hole card game and getting a lot of information, it is because that dealer has been poorly trained by that casino, in my opinion, and actually with a lot of more than anecdotal evidence. The point is, at any given casino, if you look at a blackjack pit, a hole carder might walk in there, walk around for an hour, look at 30 different dealers, and say, there's nothing here to play. Nothing here to play. That means that when they do find one, the 1 out of 50 maybe, it's a poorly trained dealer. And then the casino gets all up in arms, and they go, my God, you just took a bunch of money from us, and that's cheating. And no, it isn't, because the Nevada Supreme Court has said it isn't, and the Nevada Supreme Court has said, train your dealers, okay? And so again, you get the ire, and sometimes in my business, beyond the ire of the casino, which turns into physical violence against the player. Nonetheless, there's nothing that says that the information given to you at the table is anything other than legitimate. And at least for the people who are my guys, the clients I have, this is not what's going on.
All right.
Okay? They're sitting there, and the dealer's showing them their cards. That's why you got to go through 50, 100, 200 dealers before you find somebody who has either lapsed enough or is so bad enough that they're showing their whole card.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, if someone's at the table and they happen to see the dealer's whole card, that's not illegal. You are allowed to do that. It's
Yes.
legally allowed. Okay.
I will give another bit of anecdotal information here. I have personally 3 times played a whole card game. Okay? Never have I been signaled that it was there. I sat down and I'm watching and I'm playing, and holy crud, this dealer, if I were sitting there, would be showing me every card. Well, I'm not stupid. I go sit over there and then they show me every card. So it's not some magic science or anything. If it happened to me 3 times and I'm only an occasional player and I'm not an advantage player, I don't find it the least bit surprising that there are people who are able to capitalize on this regularly.
Okay. So let's move on to another one.
Oh, by the way,
Yes.
for the casinos who are thinking of, well, maybe we should 86 Bob Nersesian or whatever, like I said, it was inadvertent and it was 3 times. Don't throw me out. Fix your dealer.
Okay, that's understandable, but the courts have upheld this principle that the dealer has to protect his cards.
Well-
There's nothing wrong with it legally
Yeah.
to take advantage of it. All right, let's go on to team play signaling, which would this is where someone at the table is either a card counter, and he signals to other players when the deck is favorable, and they have team at the table, and through some mannerism of some kind, he signals, and that's legal too. Yes.
That one right now is legal as far as I know. I have not seen any indications that it is not. There may be some limits on it. Okay? For example, well, first, buy the book, read it. You'll see a lot of this stuff.
Right.
But rather than that,
you have
I
others
can give a
in
plug, can't I?
You can. But I was going to say, we're only going
But-
over a few of these, but
no.
you have like 8 different advantage
No, I think
play
I had
techniques.
like 14 in
14,
there.
there you go.
All right. Well, anyway, on the what we're
We're
signaling
talking team play signaling.
this blackjack table, okay? That guy over there, the dealer, has no problem if I'm a husband and wife and I go, what do I do with this, Betsy? Okay? That's the wife part.
Okay.
Okay. And so talking and sharing information among the players is part of what is allowed at that table.
In blackjack.
In
And
blackjack.
other games, some other games.
If
it's
you
not
are
allowed.
team play and signaling at poker, brother-in-law poker, for some people call it, or whatever you want to call it, that may well be cheating, because you are now intentionally breaking the secrecy which is part of the game, and you're doing it deviously. If you're sitting at the poker table and Steve goes, hey, I got pocket aces, okay, I don't think that's cheating. But his cards have been showed, it's been signaled.
Right.
But the whole point, or the benchmark of poker, is the lack of knowledge, which is not the case at blackjack, where the knowledge by convention can be shared, and that's regular. So signaling in one circumstance would be perfectly legitimate, and in another circumstance would be illegal. Then there's one in the middle where if they put up a sign that says no table talk, I don't think that moves it to illegal necessarily, but it certainly moves it to a position where you're willfully violating the rules of the casino, and I think they can void your hand. I think they might have a lawsuit for the prior hands to get that money back. Not in Nevada. A casino can never sue over a gambling debt in Nevada. And other things like that. So, you know, what is the law? Because that's what you're asking about. And really, it's a rule of reason. And you got to fall back on that and look at what's going on. So if it says don't table talk and you're table talking, you're breaching your agreement with them to follow the rules. But it doesn't say no counting the cards on the table, and if it did, that would be impossible because, for example, I just think I saw a bunch of kings and jacks come out. That deck's got to be high and low cards. I don't count cards, but I am counting cards in a sense right there. Is my knowledge good enough to win? My clients have told me not in a million years, but it's still knowledge and everybody does it. So the idea that coming out and sharing information at a blackjack table might be cheating doesn't have any support. I'll finish with also on this one that I've spoken to a number of gaming agents at depositions, under oath, etc. They've sworn to tell the truth, and they start out by saying cheating or scam when they're talking about signaling. And for every single one of them I've deposed, and that's a number of them, they eventually admit, no, there's no cheating involved, there's nothing illegal involved in signaling at blackjack.
Okay. Now, for the average person, they may not get into actually using team play signaling, but just to give them an idea that it's not any form of cheating, it is legal. All right, now let's go into something else where people, the average player, might have a problem. All the time, well, every once in a while, you'll hear these stories about some lady who wanted, and here's a recent one that was in about 6 months ago. There was a lady in Resorts World in Queens in New York, and she was playing a slot machine. The top award on the slot machine was $6,500. The slot machine came up, said she won a $42 million jackpot. There was a malfunction of some kind on them. Are you familiar with this one?
No, I'm not familiar with this case.
This one was pretty famous. And they told her it was a mistake, and they offered her a steak dinner instead of $42 million, or even offering her the $6,500, which was the maximum award. Did her hand
win the $6,500?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Based on what and anyone out there can Google this, Resorts World New York, $42 million bad jackpot. So if someone is caught in a situation like this, and maybe not for that high an amount, but maybe for a lower amount, what can they do?
Well, it depends on what state you're in. In New Jersey, you sue. In Missouri, you sue. In Nevada and Mississippi, I believe Mississippi, you take it before the Nevada or the state's Gaming Control Board or Gaming Control Commission, and they will make a decision on it, which is not the same as suing. And actually, the main thing you do is you go get a lawyer, and then you have that lawyer hire me as a consultant.
I believe she did hire lawyers.
But you do go get a lawyer, and that's the thing to do, actually. Every state might be a little bit different as to the procedure to be applied. In Nevada, you take it in front of you first have a Gaming Control Board enforcement agent determines whether or not you have won, and then either the casino or the patron can have it move up to a hearing officer for the Nevada Gaming Control Board. He'll make a decision. After that, pro forma, it goes to the board itself, and then from there, if there was an error on the law, not on construction of the facts, you have the ability to appeal to the district court and then ultimately the Nevada Supreme Court.
But now, isn't the casino always going to say, they always have that wording on there, malfunction voids all plays
in place. Okay. Well, yeah, they do always have that wording, and generally in every state that wording is applied. But let's talk about what a malfunction is. I'll give you an example of an actual case. Client sitting at a bar top machine, and it's one of those staggered progressives. 2s through 5s pay something, aces pay a super high jack, or the regular payout is 2s through 5s pay something, 6s through kings pay something else, and aces have a very high payout for 4 of a kinds. Okay, and each one of those also has a progressive meter that's running.
Right.
The sixes through kings, somebody hit it next to the guy. The progressive board recycled, and all of a sudden, 4 of a kind sixes through kings on a 50-cent machine was paying $100,000. Okay? Guy went bananas. Played 2 when he could, a third game 2 on the bar right next to each other as fast as he could. He was throwing away aces, pairs, trying to get a 5s through kings, the whole 9 yards, because there's $100,000 up there. He hit it. Okay?
Wow.
Then he did the smartest thing I think he could have done, which was get me or another attorney out there on site before the gaming investigator got there. Okay? So that when the investigation came in and he wrote up his report, it could be written appropriately towards validating the jackpot. We also did a lot of research behind it, and we found out exactly what happened. Okay? On the progressive hold meter, they had the casino was lowering the hold rate from 0.5% to 0.25% on the progressives. Make sense so far? Mm-hmm. So for every dollar paid, for every dollar played, 1/4 of a penny would contribute to the progressives rather than 1/2 penny.
Right.
These may be unknown to a lot of you or a lot of people out there. Those banks of machines, there's a regular IBM compatible computer under the bar top or whatever that is a controller for those games, and all the games are being run through that computer on a program that plays all the games. Well, you interface that computer with a keyboard, and that keyboard has instructions on it, or it has things that you do. In this particular case, to lower or raise the progressive hold, I think they did it by an eighth of a unit, or an eighth of a cent, by toggling F5. Okay? Mm-hmm. So the guy goes in there and he goes 5, not F5, 5. Okay? That took the progressive up to $100,000.
Wow.
That didn't change because you toggle the progressive. He actually took the progressive up to $3 million.
Wow.
Okay? But the machine itself had programmed into it a $99,999 limit. So he hits F5, nothing happens. It's up to $3 million, but so it reads 100. And he goes, oh, I'm pushing the wrong button, and hits F5 to toggle down, and now he's got the 1/4% hold. He shuts off the machine, or his interface, and there's a $100,000 jackpot. The casino said, we're not paying you. That was a malfunction. I'm representing the guy, and I'm saying that's not a malfunction. Everything about that machine, including the controller and the interface, acted and operated exactly as it was designed. Where's the malfunction? And they said, well, it was a human malfunction. I said, human malfunctions don't count. And I looked at the board, and they understood this. I said, look, how many times have you gentlemen had somebody come in here who was dealt something like a 10 jack queen and ace of diamonds and a 6 of hearts, and hit the wrong button and threw away the ace of hearts, and the king of hearts, or the ace of diamonds and the king of diamonds popped up, and they would have had a royal flush, but they hit the wrong button. It happens all the time.
Right.
Do they get paid by the board? No. Yep. A lot of casinos will pay them, though. If you're very nice.
Big customer.
Not necessarily a big customer. Just make sure you ask.
Wow.
All right. What's the harm in asking? Mm-hmm. Because it is an obvious, ridiculous, stupid mistake.
Right.
Okay. And the board got it. No, there's no malfunction here. There is human error where this guy pushed the wrong button. And if patrons can't win when they push the wrong button, casinos can't win when they push the wrong button. Gentlemen, make sure you push the right button next time. Give this man his $100,000.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah. Isn't that an interesting story, though?
That is. I think you mentioned, I remember now, something in the book about that.
I think that might have been in the first book.
Oh, Okay. I think I remember something in here about if you happen to, if it was a player error, they can still win it. But let's go on. So those are things that might happen to a regular player in a casino, as opposed to the rarer instances where advantage gamblers. Now let's talk about credit markers. Now sometimes, well, I was always fascinated about this because I've had credit markers in casinos, and sometimes it's convenient. You apply for it before you for me from being out of town, before I fly to Las Vegas, I used to go and get a credit marker, and then you'd sign it, you'd get an advance, and then you'd pay them either when you left or when you get back home, you send them a check. But I didn't realize it at the time, and I've read all these stories since, that there are people who don't realize that they sign these things, and they can go to jail if they don't pay them.
Yeah. But you got to understand what that document actually is.
Okay.
You call it a credit marker. Other casinos might call it a marker. It might be called an advance or a loan or this, that, or the other thing. It is none of those. Not one of them. It's a check. It is just that simple. It is a negotiable instrument by its very terms, and it is no more complicated than the check. In what used to be many people had these things in the ancient days called checkbooks, and they would tear these out and write them up, and that was the way commerce worked instead of through the internet. But today, or that is still what this is, and it's a check. And if you write, you might have heard the term writing a bad check. Mm-hmm. And people go to jail for writing a bad check.
Yes, sir.
Well, you're writing a check, and if it's bad, you can go to jail.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand that when they deal with these markers.
Well, the other thing, I just took us back 15 years with the checkbook. This is even a more ancient form of check. This is what's called a counter check. Mm-hmm. If you watch in the old movies, I'm talking into the 50s, but mostly the 40s and the 30s, people shopping at a department store, when they walk up to the counter, there's a stack of checks sitting on the counter, and they just take one out and they fill it out. They put in their bank name, and it's, if you read a check, it says to, and there's the bank name, and then it says pay to the order of the department store. That will be pre-printed in, and then there's an amount, and you write it in and you sign it. That is now taken by the department store to the bank that you put in, and it's treated as a check, and the bank gives up the money, and they find your account, and they debit that account. You didn't even need to give them an account number. Your name was your account. Well, counter checks have disappeared in all forms, although they're still completely legal and authorized, and they're negotiable instruments, and they can work in commerce, but the only place that they're still surviving is what we call today a casino marker. It's a counter check.
Okay, so that's another instance where regular gamblers may be affected by something. And here's one that affects an awful lot of people, and most people do not understand this when they go to a casino. But can you explain, because there's an awful lot of Indian casinos in the United States. I have them all in my book. There's hundreds of them. And
are you including just the bingo parlors too?
No, they have to have machines.
Okay, I think there's thousands.
Okay, well, I guess probably if you do just bingo. But can you explain people's legal rights when they go to an Indian casino? Because it's a lot different than going into, say, a regulated Nevada casino.
All right. Let me talk about their rights generally. You have none. Okay? That's a broad brush, and obviously there's some. But let me tell you, mostly you relegate. If anything happens or anything goes wrong, you are largely going to be relegated to what, in my industry, we call Indian court. And Indian court is, every tribe has their entire court system. Even if it's just like 900 people, like the Coshada guys, the Coshada tribe in, I think, Mississippi or Louisiana, they have a court, or one I'm familiar with and dealt with was the Tano Apaches in Payson, Arizona. And at the top of that court, or somewhere in there, is going to be a retired civil judge or a retired judge from some American authority as a general rule, but it doesn't have to be. But we're dealing with as few as 900 people for the tribe, or even less sometimes. They all get money from the casino. You're looking at challenging the casino's action. You're going in front of the tribal court where every penny they have to even run a court comes from that casino. And the prosecutor is a tribal member, or whoever's representing the tribe. The jury, if you're asking for a jury, their exclusive pool is tribal members. The judge is hired by them, and you're going, I was wronged, I want money. Who wins?
Mm-hmm.
There it is. It's not, I mean, it's not rocket science.
Right. And this would apply also whether it's a patron dispute in the casino about being cheated not necessarily cheated, or not being paid for a particular situation, but also if you're injured, if say you trip and fall on the carpet in a casino.
As a general rule, some tribes have entered into pacts with either local authorities or state authorities in that kind of case to have the local authorities or the local court system deal with those, because the administration is already there for it. But generally, if it is between you and the casino for whatever, you're going to be in Indian court. Which, I've won in Indian court. But to win in Indian court, you got to have all the facts.
Okay. So another situation where the average gambler might be affected. I'm trying to understand, if you're on an Indian casino, the Indians have sovereign immunity. It's like going to a foreign country. And now I have one last question for you. In your book, in the very end there, you say that you represented a gambling case before that was with the Nevada Supreme Court?
Oh, I've had like 3 or 4 in front of the Nevada Supreme Court.
Or the U.S. Supreme Court?
I've been to the U.S. Supreme Court on one.
Oh, okay. So what was your case? Oh, is it complicated?
No, it's not complicated. However, if you follow the Supreme Court at all, you'll see that over the last 8 years, 10 years, it's very rarely that you get a unanimous decision. There's always dissents and majorities, and the justices themselves are arguing amongst themselves. I can say honestly that I had a case in front of the United States Supreme Court where those judges agreed unanimously and there was not a single dissent.
Wow.
I lost.
I thought it had a happy ending.
Nope, no happy ending.
Oh.
And the case was just this simple. An advantage gambler, 2 advantage gamblers are flying back from Puerto Rico. They've done pretty well. They've got, between the 2 of them, $100,000. And they aren't hiding it. They show the money as they're exiting Puerto Rico. Now, Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States. It's treated just like a state. This is not foreign transportation of currency or anything like that. They get on the plane, and they have a layover in Atlanta. Okay, the guys at Puerto Rico showed very special interest in their money, and these guys felt imperiled, and they were right. But not only, so they get off in Atlanta, and the DEA, right, these are gamblers. The DEA brings up agents right there in Atlanta, but they don't meet my clients coming off of the airplane. They wait until they are in line to board in Atlanta before they approach them and take the money. Together with, well, you can stay here and we'll work it out, but you're not getting your money back, yada, 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 yada. So the DEA in Atlanta just took $100,000. They had no evidence of any drug trafficking, but that was their basis for taking the money. Obviously, if somebody's traveling with $100,000 between Puerto Rico and Las Vegas, they are ne'er-do-wells who are trading in illicit substances. Well, no, they weren't. and we were able to give to that agent within 2 days tax returns showing that both of them are very successful gamblers, where they file taxes and pay taxes on it. Also, and I thought this was wonderful, a win report from the Casino San Juan showing that they walked out of that casino the same day as they got on that airplane, over $30,000 ahead. So there's $30,000 of the cash plus whatever their bank would have been, explained right there. And the feds are sitting there going, and this federal agent, this, what is his name? Walden? Yeah, I think it's that. Is hanging on this and saying, no, it was drug related. So finally, a good U.S. attorney got in there and looked at this, and I said to her, and her name was Dahil Goss, and I believe she was very honorable and very straight up. She looked at all the facts and she said, yeah, I get it. Okay, we're not the gaming police, we're the drug police. And she says to me, if you'll sign a release of those agents who attacked the money of your clients, we'll send you back the money. And I said, I understand what you're saying, and that's very magnanimous, but we don't want to sign a release because we're going to sue your agent, and we think we should get back the money anyway. She said, okay, you're right, and she sent us the money.
Oh.
All right? However, my clients had their money taken. They were detained against their will, and this federal agent, actually he was a local Atlanta suburb cop on assignment with the DEA, acting as a federal agent, took that money and held them, and it was all baseless, and we sued on that. We sued here in Nevada, and at the time the law said, if you commit a tort directed at a person who is a resident of another state, they can sue in that state. So we sued him in Nevada. The Ninth Circuit affirmed. The Supreme Court turned around and said, no, Mr. Walden's never been to Nevada. You can't sue him in Nevada. And that was what we were in front of the Supreme Court for, jurisdiction.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Bob Nersesian, author of The Law for Gamblers. If people want to get more information about you or your book or where they can buy it, how would they do that?
Well, for the book, go to Amazon, or it's in some bookstores.
And publisher at Huntington Press?
Huntington Press. Huntington Press will sell it direct.
Okay.
Las Vegas Advisor. I believe this store has some on their shelves.
Gamblers
We're
General
at Gamblers General Store. What a wonderful place, too. I had 10 minutes of fun walking around here before you called me up here. If they want to get in touch with me, I'm really
they're
busy.
in trouble.
No. Well, if they have the kind of troubles we talked about, my phone number's on the internet, and I'm all over the internet, and even my cell phone number's on the internet. I'm not hiding, but if you want to hire me, you're going to hire me. Don't be calling up going, hey, I was just wondering if, because you wouldn't believe how many of those phone calls I get.
I'm sure you
And I tend to be polite and answer the questions, but I'm really getting sick of it.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks so much. This
Thank
was
you, Bob.
fun.
Thank you very much for spending time with us today. Again, Bob Nersesian, author of The Law for Gamblers.